A very big roster decision has been made as Jace Jung is optioned to AAA on Monday. We'll talk about that and all of the ramifications surrounding it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. Happy Tuesday, everybody. We have a lot to talk about yet again. Player previews are being postponed yet again because we have so much to talk about. The headline of Monday is obviously Jace Jung being optioned to AAA Toledo in a press release, news release. Tigers PR put it public on Monday. So we're going to talk all about that and obviously what third base is going to look like, what it could mean for other kind of on the bubble players or fringe roster candidates now that that decision has already been made, why it was made this early, et cetera, et cetera. We'll talk about some of the standouts from the spring game. We did see an outfield with Malloy and Torkelson both at the same time on Monday, which was certainly an event. Reese Olson pitched. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit of just roster construction as a whole and celebrate the fact that technically today is the first day of MLB's regular season over in Tokyo. So let's start off with Reese Olson. He goes 4 1/3, 7 hits, 6 runs, but only 3 of them earned, 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. This was very much a spring training arsenal, I'll call it. Daniela Bruce, after his outing, asked him about some of the specific pitches that he was throwing, and one of the things he really mentioned was the changeup, and she mentioned the changeup, and he threw it a ton. And I think that this was an outing where, you know, you want to ramp up, you want to treat it as an actual start, but at the same time, I don't think we'll see too many starts from him this entire season where he has as few sliders thrown as he did in this outing. I think, and maybe I'm totally off base. Maybe, you know, that's the approach to facing the hitters that were in the Pirates lineup today. But from where I was sitting, I really think that this was you know what, I really want to work on my fastball and changeup today. And that's what he did, because he threw a ton of changeups and sinkers specifically in this game. He threw a couple of four seams, more than a couple. He threw a handful of four-seam fastballs as well, and they were really effective. Got a few swings and misses on them. I thought that the four-seam was some of the best I've seen from it so far this calendar year. The sinker was effective. It obviously is not a big swing and miss pitch. It never has been. And that's why, you know, I've talked about that at length over his major league career, but it is incredible at getting ground balls, and that it continued to do after the first inning in this one. The first inning, the ball was just in the air seemingly for both teams the entire time, but he was able to keep the ball on the ground, I think, after that, kind of throughout the rest of his outing. The changeup was nasty when it was located well. He was just spraying it all over the place. I thought especially glove side, whether it was to righties or lefties, when he was trying to hit that half of the plate, that left half, if he's looking at the plate from pitcher's mound, the left side of the plate, he just was really kind of spraying it all over the place. Hung a couple of changeups. They got way too much of the plate, and those were able to become fly balls, and it was a really windy day. We'll talk about defense here in a little bit. But I think as a whole, this was a fine outing for what it was, which I think was an outing to work on his fastball and changeup. It sounds like he's going to have one more start in spring training at the end of this week and then be done until the regular season rolls around. So hopefully that is the case. If he can get, 5 solid innings under his belt here in his last outing of spring training, I think that'll be a good sign of him being kind of 100% ready. But this has been we'll kind of do a spring training recap, I guess, after his last outing. But I think that this has been a really solid spring. The ERA maybe isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but as I've said a lot, you got to take spring training numbers kind of with a grain of salt there. I think the stuff that he's been working on, he has improved in so far this spring training. The changeup looked really good in this one, and the fastball I think is better than it was last year. Those are 2 wins for me, and he'll throw the slider, which is a legitimately elite pitch, a whole heck of a lot more in the regular season. So good on Reese Olson. Again, even if the final line maybe doesn't look like the prettiest thing in the world to you. Defensively, we have a lot to go over defensively in this ballgame. We had an outfield at one point. I say at one point to start the game, the first couple of innings. The Detroit Tigers outfield was left field, Justin Henry Malloy, center field, Wenceel Perez, right field, Spencer Torkelson. I'm going to say what I said on yesterday's show, and I'm going to reiterate that point. This is what spring training is for. Shouldn't be mad, shouldn't be upset, shouldn't be like, oh my goodness, what are the Tigers doing? This is exactly what spring training is for. Now, I also think we learned a little bit in this outing. Malloy had some trouble out in left field. Now, Andy Dirks was talking on the broadcast about how it was super windy, and AJ Hinch said that it was super windy. And Andy Dirks, who has played corner outfield at Comerica Park and at Joker Merchant Stadium, said that, those are some fly balls that at Comerica wouldn't be as windy because Comerica is, a little bit more isolated and there's more walls there and things to block the wind. But regardless, whether you want to throw out some excuses to use or not, misplayed multiple fly balls that were hit to him in left field. On the flip side, Torkelson didn't have as many opportunities in terms of like fly balls hit to him. So we didn't get to see a like Torkelson going after or tracking a fly ball in right field. But there were a couple of balls on the ground that were hit to him. One went into the corner, didn't look particularly fast going after that ball, but that's again, he's a first baseman. I'm not expecting him to be, Billy Hamilton out there. And then there was another play later in the outing where the runner hit second. And I think the immediate reaction was just like, we're taking an extra 90 if the ball is hit to right field because we're going to test Torkelson. And he got it with ease. And Torkelson's arm at first base has graded out very poorly in his major league career. Now, that is first base, so he's not getting a ton of opportunities to throw the baseball. I'm not sure that what we've seen from him at first is necessarily like as good as his arm gets because of that reason. Very important reason to bring up. That being said, it was not a very competitive throw, and I was not very inspired by his arm, which is kind of an important trait for a corner outfielder, especially a right fielder in today's day and age of baseball. All of that to say, I don't think we're going to see those three in the outfield. Like Wenceel Perez is fine in center, but I certainly don't think he should be like an everyday 162 game starter in center field either. He's going to get moved off of that position the second that Veerling or Meadows is back from injury. So it's spring training, and that's, again, what spring training is for. It's just, I don't think in the regular season you're going to see those three in the outfield together too terribly often from this Tigers team. And while Torkelson didn't go out there and look like terrible, all right, we talked about this yesterday, I don't think he looked awful. I don't think he looked unplayable out there. He wasn't really challenged. I'm not sure we've really come to any conclusions yet either. I wasn't inspired in the same breath. So we'll see. We'll see how much right field he's playing here over the next week and a half. But we kind of broke down why he's playing right field and why it benefits him and the Tigers just to see if this can work out in spring training over the next week and a half. as well. So no issue with it. Keep doing it if you want to. I'm totally cool with the decision because it's spring. But I still do not have a ton of confidence that it is going to be a common regular season occurrence at the same time. Want to talk a couple of more defensive things in this game. We'll get off of the outfield, go into the infield a little bit. Then we'll talk offensive performances and the decision to option Jace Jung. We'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our new friends over at Just Ingredients. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. And that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts the NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you're recovering from a workout or need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver final and real results. Visit justingredients.com/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off of your order. And for more wellness tips, you can follow just.ingredients on Instagram. Also got to talk to y'all about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you ever checked your bank account and wondered, where did all of my money go? Monarch Money may be for you. Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending, all in one place so you can stop managing money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and I save way more. And instead of juggling a lot of different apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. It is the best. Also, managing money with your partner has never been easier. You can track shared accounts, personal accounts, set goals, and all be on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off of your first year. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shots to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow as we keep our offseason train rolling. At some point, we're going to get back to player previews. I don't know. We will, I promise. But, you know, we big news keeps happening. We'll get to that big news here in a second. I want to put a bow on the conversation about what we saw out of the spring training game that was televised on Monday. Colt Keith booted a ball at first base, also made a couple of nice scoops, though, so a little bit of give and take there. Dylan Dingler, I thought, looked great behind the plate, and Ryan Kreidler playing, third base, but, has played kind of all over the field. I thought looked really solid defensively as well. Offensively, Kreidler and Trey Sweeney both had some walks, which is great to see. We'll talk about this at the end of the show. I think we have to have the conversation of the possibility that Ryan Kreidler makes this roster now, especially with the demotion of Young and now the two injuries to Meadows and Veerling. And I think, we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth at the end of the show when we kind of get into roster breakdown here. Dylan Dingler had a solid at-bat in this game. Colt Keith just dogged on him a little bit defensively, had a great day at the plate. I still need to see him get around on velocity. He was, blown by a 92, 93 mile an hour fastball right down the middle in this game. Now, he proceeded a pitch or two later to take a curveball that was on the outer half of the plate, smacked it. Very nice piece of hitting, hit it very hard, line drive down the left field line and got a double out of it. 3 hits, fantastic day. His spring numbers are really good. His hard hit rate in spring training is among the best in baseball. He has had a really solid spring. Just want to see him to fully unlock that kind of next level we're waiting on. He's going to need to get the timing down on major league velocity still, which was kind of something he was inconsistent on, we'll call it, in 2024. Winfield Perez had a great day at the plate as well, goes 2 for 4 with a hit from both sides and has an RBI. That is awesome to see. I have been very critical of Perez's ability to hit left-handed pitching, and so for him to, in the same game, get a hit from both sides of the plate is obviously great, and it looks more and more every day like there's a chance he's the opening day center fielder for this baseball team, so we're going to want to see him hitting from both sides as well, kind of give them the platoon advantage no matter what, and hopefully he can play almost every day. Thought Kevin McGonigal looks great again. His spring numbers are off the charts. And then Gleyber Torres did play, thank goodness, was scratched on Sunday's game, did play on Monday and crushed a ball. I don't know how it wasn't a homer. I guess it was the wind that was apparently heavily affecting the Detroit Tigers on Monday, but absolutely smoked the ball to left field, so good to see out of him. The big news on Monday, Jace Jung optioned to AAA. Tigers Major League camp is now under 40 players. We are at 39, which means that the big names are going to start being, not like, Riley Green's not getting cut. My point is the more recognizable names are going to be a part of these press releases, and Jace Jung seems to be one of the first bigger names that will not be heading north with the team. Sean Gunther, the other name, a part of that. So they go from 41 to 39 players. I think it is a statement from the team that he got sent down with this much time left. There is over about a week until the team is leaving Lakeland, and a week and a half until opening day, and they are not even taking the rest of this last week of spring training games to see if maybe Young can turn it around. It's just like, no, he has not been good enough. He is not going to be ready to be the opening day third baseman for the Tigers. He's starting in Toledo. And that decision came on March 17th. And I don't think that's for nothing. This was a disappointing spring. And I'm sure Young feels the same way. I think that's pretty objective. When Veerling got hurt and Bregman signed with Boston, when both of those things happened, the immediate reaction from the fan base, myself included, was this is Jace Young's spot to lose. And because he's a lefty, we can almost even pencil him in for getting more at-bats than anybody else they're going to throw there, at least early in the season, because there's more right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers. So the fact, again, that he got sent down with 41 players still in camp, I think it is a disappointing spring, but he just looks kind of overwhelmed at the plate. They talked to AJ about it. He said that his timing just looked way off, and I think this kind of takes the pressure of pushing really hard to get on base and get that big hit, kind of alleviates him of that pressure a little bit, and hopefully he can just calm down and make some adjustments here in the rest of spring training. So now the big question is, what does third base even look like? Like what does third base in 2025 look like now with no Veerling and no Young to start off the Major League Baseball season? We talked about this literally yesterday, so I'm really happy in a way, timing-wise, that it happened when it did, because on yesterday's show, we talked about how the Tigers are not afraid to throw an Andy Ibanez, Zach McKinstry platoon out there at third base to start off the year, right? Matt Veerling might miss the first, 3 to 5 weeks. Like, there's a chance he's back by the end of April or early May. And that's all things considered. If you're looking at the big picture and zooming out a little bit, that's not completely detrimental to the position. Like, you're going to have the guy that we all expected to be the primary third baseman back, hopefully a month, maybe even a little bit less than a month into the season. So that is still the big picture answer here. And I think, again, people focus a little bit too much on what the opening day roster is going to be. So they're going to run a platoon out there, but they're going to get Veerling back. It's not like Veerling's out for the entire season. That's what I expect. Some people were talking about Javi. look, I am sure Javi Baez is going to play more third base this season than he has in maybe the last 4 years combined. Okay. I am very confident in that. And I totally agree that he is going to play more third base than we have seen from him in a long time. I also don't think that this move just immediately means that he's the primary third baseman. I saw people that were like, wow, I can't believe they optioned Jace Jung so that Javi could play third base every day. Maybe I'm wrong. That is not how I interpreted this situation whatsoever. I don't think this move actually has anything literally at all to do with Javi. This is about Jace Jung not being good enough at the present moment to get a majority of starts at third base at the major league level, which is, again, being a left-handed hitter, the platoon hitter against right-handed pitching. That is what he would have been. Obviously, Jace Jung will be back in the majors at some point this year, but I really don't hate the decision today. He just didn't look very comfortable in the box, and hopefully going to Toledo and kind of taking that pressure off and slowing down maybe a little bit will help him get back on track, because we all know that the hitter that this dude can be when he is right. This also, I think, gives Trey Sweeney kind of an inside track to make the roster and allows him and Javi Baez to coexist on the roster a little bit easier. Okay, let's talk about the roster, kind of where it stands. We'll talk about some of the positional battles that I think are still going on. Then we'll talk about opening day and a little bit of news out of the broadcast booth as well. We'll do all of that and more right after this. Got to talk to you today about our friends over at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for extra edge, their free TradeMaster program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. There's thousands of skilled professionals already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. So join the TradeMaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. As always, how'd you like that? Look at Locked On, man. To the moon, baby. We got a few more things I want to talk about here before I send you off on with your Tuesday. I want to start off with a little bit of a roster discussion. I think at this point, we can really kind of narrow down these positional battles to somewhere between 3 and 5 people, depending on your opinion of a few of them. So for me, I'm looking at Malloy, Torkelson, Kreidler, and Jahmai Jones. And I think that there is, some people are throwing Sweeney into there as well. I saw a big kind of back and forth online between a couple of people in regards to Sweeney standing on the roster. I, at this point, would be shocked if Trey Sweeney was not on the opening day roster. Especially after this Jace Jung move. I thought he was going to make the roster before the Jace Jung decision. I think now, after it, again, with Javi's, I don't know if willingness, maybe, Javi's ability, we'll call it, to play third base, I think that I would be pretty surprised if he didn't. So those are the 4 guys that I think are all kind of in consideration here. And I think there's 2 spots to give between those 4 players. Now, again, at the end of the week, the Tigers have another off day. So we'll end the week with another roster kind of current standing projection type of show. But I still find it hard to believe that Malloy and Torkelson can both coexist on this roster. I really do. And I know that that has maybe softened a little bit over the last week as far as like the general media consensus goes. There's been several reports about people talking about like, oh, like that they could both make the roster. AJ, played them both in the game at the same time on Monday. Like, I think that they want more depth in center field, which brings me then back to Ryan Kreidler, who I think if they want to have another option in center field that is not Jahmai Jones, and not because of anything against Jahmai Jones, just that Jahmai Jones isn't on the 40-man roster. And if they don't want to make space or remove anybody from their 40, then that would lead you to believe that Ryan Kreidler is, I don't want to say probably, I think he's just in the mix, just like all of these guys. But Ryan Kreidler has more of a chance than he has had all spring of cracking this major league roster out of camp. And we saw a couple of seasons ago, Kreidler made the opening day roster and then was sent down to AAA before May 1st even, right? Just because of like some injuries and depth things. I think that could very well just be the case again. I'm not saying that Ryan Kreidler is going to spend 162 games on the major league roster. I think it's far more likely that he's the first guy sent down in that case when, Vierling or Parker Meadows come back, or, if Jace Jung's tearing the cover off the ball and has fixed what he's got going on a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, I like, can Zach McKinstry play center field like at a clip that you are pleased with, at a level that you are pleased with? Because I don't think they're going to go to opening day with Wenceel Perez being literally the only option in center. And that's not a knock against Wenceel Perez. That's just teams need more than one option in center field, no matter who you are. It's too important of a position to just have zero backup or zero contingency plan in. So I think it's time to start having that conversation. Do I think it's likely? I really don't even know what to say at the present moment. Like, I think that's probably a conversation that as the week goes along, maybe the picture is clearer and clearer. But I haven't talked about that as a possibility yet all spring. And I think after this recent round of injury updates and cuts, it's becoming more and more apparent that is a very, very real possibility. And he can play a lot more than just center field as well. So we'll see what happens there. Pitching wise, AJ went on Foul Territory. Great show. Tigers Territory, the affiliate. Cody Stavenhagen and Kieran do a fantastic job over there. Go support them. Always go support Cody's work at The Athletic, et cetera, et cetera. But he was on Foul Territory, so the MLB wide show there, with some great names, very knowledgeable baseball people, and said that there were 4 pitchers fighting for 2 rotation spots. And that's not something we don't really kind of already know. Jackson Jobe, Casey Mize, Kenta Maeda, and Cater Montero. He wanted to make it clear that Montero was a part of that as well, which I really appreciate about AJ. And he said 2 of them will be disappointed and not make the rotation. He didn't say 2 of them won't make the major league roster, though. And so I still think that they go into opening day with Jobe and Mize in the rotation, Maeda in the bullpen, and Montero in AAA. But I also think that there's a possibility that it is Mize and Maeda in the rotation, Jobe and Montero both in AAA. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll see how Jobe does in his next spring outing, which is coming up quick here. The thing with Maeda that he also pointed out was that he's had a solid spring. And like, the ERA might not be, I guess, the prettiest thing in the world, but like, there was a stat floating around. I wish I could give credit, but I saw it from a few different people, so I don't know what the origin, who plucked the stat, where the origin is from necessarily, but was that Maeda's one of only a handful of pitchers in baseball that has a K rate over like 25 or 30% in spring training, and a walk rate under 5%. So he's doing what the Tigers want, which is getting strikes and not walking people. And so I think that there is a possibility that he still kind of squeaks his way into the back end of the rotation. Mize, I think that, like, including him in that is kind of just for show. I would be shocked if he wasn't in the rotation at this point. That's pretty much it. There was an update in the broadcast booth. FanDuel Sports Network and the Detroit Tigers released a statement that Kirk Gibson would not be a part of the broadcast going forward, wishing nothing but the best for Gibby, a fan favorite here across multiple generations. Has been an absolute riot to have in the booth over the last, several years now, and is such a prominent fixture in the Tigers organization, will continue to be a special assistant to the front office here, is such an ingrained part of the city of Detroit's kind of lore and history at this point, and is still obviously every day battling Parkinson's. And the work he has been doing with his foundation, it seems to be taking priority, and is something that he wants to focus on, and he'll still be in the ballpark, and I'm sure they'll get him in the booth for a couple of games as a guest at some point this year. But as far as him being a regular commentator, it sounds like those days are over. So praying and thinking of Gibby, hoping everything's okay. Hopefully he can focus on his health and continue fighting the good fight there, and go support Kirk Gibson's foundation to help fight Parkinson's. Just an absolute warrior, and wishing him nothing but the best. Of course, always. Opening day is technically today. There's still spring training games left for 28 other teams, but the Cubs and the Dodgers are playing regular season baseball at like 6 o'clock in the morning Eastern time on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in Tokyo. Going to be awesome. I will be DVRing it because I'm not, as much as I love it, I don't think I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m., watch baseball, then go to the office and have a full work day either. So I will be DVRing it, but I will be watching some really cool, stars from Japan playing in that game. Is going to be really awesome for the atmosphere and for the fans. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We, of course, will be back tomorrow talking about more spring training baseball, more preseason stuff, and hopefully getting a player preview in at some point. Please stop doing news things for just like a couple of days so we can get some player previews out. Appreciate you all greatly. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Supply House was on the screen for the entire third segment. I just learned that information right now. Go Tigers, baby.